But I'm thankful my late father was alive at the time. I'm thankful for his wisdom and presence during that time, because then he reminded me of the profound truth that they could take away the titles, but they couldn't take away who I was. And that it was who I was that was able to take that small business and build it into an established business. That was me. I could hear what he was saying, but my argument was that I didn't have the resources and the financial muscle. He then reminded me, you are the resource. You are the alchemy. Open. A seed. We plant you anywhere and you're able to create that which you are. That was overwhelming. Good afternoon, my gorgeous queen. How are you guys doing? How's everyone doing? How's this event been today? I'm glad. I'm glad. It's an honor to stand in your presence this afternoon, not just as your keynote speaker, but as a mirror, as a reflection to you. As a mirror, as a reflection, and as you guys own your stories, your narratives, it is beautiful to bear witness to that. My name is Ntsoaki Sibiya. Kipeu yabahlakwana okhethwe ngosotobe. My roots stem from the beautiful soil of Matatien, which is on the western foothills of the Drakensberg Mountains. This is where I discovered that entrepreneurship was a career option for me. And has paved a lot of the ground on which I stand today as an entrepreneur, as a businesswoman, and as a mentor. My late father was an entrepreneur, a very bold man, enterprising, driven by vision. And my mother, although she was a teacher by profession, she was never content with one stream of income. So she had multiple ventures, modeling ingenuity and resilience. And my grandmother, whom we spent majority of our time with, she turned fabric into dignity. She was a seamstress, sold garments at church. And so entrepreneurship, leadership, strong work ethic, these are things that were modeled to me very early in my childhood. Now the word bold, I love the summit's name. The word bold. This is a word that has followed me my whole life. And not because I was chasing it, but because it was my default setting. I was that child who filled a room with her energy before I knew what presence meant. The one who spoke in vivid detail out loud all the things she wanted to become. I was talkative, uncontainable, imaginative. And where I come from, these things were not only accepted, but it was celebrated. In my family, being bold, boldness, it was a language, and we spoke it fluently. My parents encouraged it. My siblings and I, we lived it. So I come from a home where being too much was never a crime. And then I stepped out into the big bad world. I stepped out into the world, out of the comfort of home. And out there, my boldness all of a sudden My boldness was no longer a blessing, but it was a warning. My energy, once described as vibrant, was now intimidating. My confidence, once a family virtue, was now something I was told to dial down on because it could be mistaken as being arrogant. And all of a sudden, the world had introduced this new idea to me, this new concept, that there was a version of womanhood. There was a version of womanhood that was more acceptable, more palatable, more quiet. And so I did what many of us in this room could perhaps resonate with. What many of us could perhaps resonate with. And that is the slow act of self-abandonment. Who can resonate with that? The slow act of self-abandonment, where we make these negotiations with ourselves to become more acceptable. Yeah. Where we trade authenticity for approval. Where we learn that excellence has a ceiling. And that ceiling is called people's comfort. But let me tell you something. Let me make something very clear today. Boldness is not arrogance. Boldness is not rebellion. Boldness is memory. I saw a post yesterday by Boldly Hope, and it read she remembered who she was, and the game changed. Boldness is memory. The memory of who you were before the world told you to doubt yourself. But if boldness is memory, then it has a counterpart. If boldness is memory, then it has a counterpart. And that counterpart is associated with amnesia. The counterpart of boldness is performance. It is performance, and not performance in excelling at your craft, but performance of putting up an act, a show, performing, prove to them. Performance happens when you have an amnesia of who you are, and you're trying to prove to everyone that you deserve to be here. And I want to talk about performance because I want to share a story about my performance era. My performance era. You see, I've always been a high achiever. It came naturally for me. I was that girl at school. That girl with the scrolls, the badge, kafasal betakoli ankles. You know that girl, right? The head girl. I was that girl. The girl who claimed her destiny with ease. But that girl, she grew into a woman who was constantly auditioning for position, auditioning for approval, chasing, performing. Not because I wanted to win, but because I needed to affirm myself of the value that I felt that I could no longer claim naturally. I grew into that woman, performing, chasing. When I couldn't find employment after graduating, I made a practical choice. Most of us make practical choice when you struggle to find employment. I worked in retail. I wasn't fulfilled. But even though I was not fulfilled, I brought all of me into that space. Excellence, strong work ethic, commitment. I brought all of me into that space. But something inside of me told me I have settled, especially when I was watching my peers seemingly winning in their lanes. I then became a mother, and then an opportunity opened for me to work for a security company. I was hired as a receptionist, a position I decided that I'm going to own, a position that I decided I'm going to approach with a bold posture. 6 months later, I was promoted to the operations manager. A year later, I had doubled that business's revenue. Oh, you clap now. You clap now. 4 years later, I was sitting in the boardroom as a director. Title in hand, power in stride, but no ownership. Disagreements happen, they fire me. Oh, that round of applause. They fire me. A season that almost broke me. I'd given my all into this business. My time, my strategy, my ideas. And just like that, it was gone. You see, when you build from a place that has no identity, ego, and the trappings of success will make you believe you are inexpendable. Because titles are temporary. And when the titles were taken, the positions, the titles, the material fluff, it almost broke my spirit because I had attached the essence of who I am to that. But I'm thankful my late father was alive at the time. I'm thankful for his wisdom and presence during that time, because then he reminded me of the profound truth that they could take away the titles, but they couldn't take away who I was. And that it was who I was that was able to take that small business and build it into an established business. That was me. I could hear what he was saying, but my argument was that I didn't have the resources and the financial muscle. He then reminded me, you are the resource. You are the alchemy. Obey. A seed, we plant you anywhere and you're able to create that which you are. That was not only a statement for me. That was not only a statement for me, it was a rebirth. But I must admit, that rebirth for me, I did not rise in that truth of who I am. I rose in performance. I rose in performance. I came back guns blazing. I came back guns blazing, built the security company, not because I knew that I was capable of doing this and that I was destined to do great work, but to prove a point to them. To prove to them, you know them, right? Don't sit there judging me like you don't know who them are. You know those ones you want to prove to, the ones who you think they want to see me down, I'm going to show them. So I rose in performance and I built the security company. I curated a woman who was successful and thriving. 5 years later, into building this business, and it's running. It's a successful company. It's 8 years now. 5 years into that, I enter a pageant.
Yes, proud.
Now, the danger of performing is that you start putting your insecurities on display instead of your gifts. And the noise that came with that pageant, it consumed me. It consumed me. And God, in His grace, He allowed me to fall. He allowed me to stumble and fall again. I remember I didn't make top 25 for that particular pageant. I mean, an entire me. Huh? I remember I didn't make top 25. And it hit me hard. It hit me hard that year. And I realized that deep down inside, I was still trying to outrun my wounds. Deep down inside, I was performing. And so I needed to find moments of stillness and quietude to reflect. I remember reading Maya Angelou's quote during that time. And funny enough, I had read this quote just before I started my security business. And it says, you may encounter defeat, but you must not be defeated. In fact, it may be necessary for you to encounter those defeats so that you know who you are, what you can come out of. I read that the first time round, but it slapped differently this time. It slapped a whole lot differently this time. And the energy I was carrying it with slapped differently. And that's when I decided and made a conscious decision to stop performing. I remember when I decided to go back to that same pageant because I went back. When I decided to go back and my husband asking me, why on earth would you do that? I know some of you ask me that too, yeah? Why would you do that? And I didn't give everyone an answer to that because it was a sacred moment for me. But I answered him and I said for myself, in pursuit of personal mastery as I grow in purpose, on purpose. And so that is when I began to build myself, become a woman who builds herself. So what does it mean to become a woman who builds herself? It means doing the work that no one applauds. It means doing the work that no one applauds, but everyone eventually sees. The woman who was on that pageant the first time round, and the woman who was there the second time round, there was a vast difference. Because the second time round, that woman was a lot grounded, a lot rooted. And so building yourself means turning inward to align so that you can show up outwardly with conviction. It's not about building what is most visible or the most visible version of you. That's not what it's about. It's about building the most anchored version of you. Anchor yourself. And I had to learn this the hard way. When the titles were stripped, the applause, the validation, when all of that was stripped, I had to learn that the hard way. I had to go inward and find that woman. She had always been there. She'd always been there, but she had stopped hearing herself. And the moment I did that, I started to embrace my emergence. I started to embrace my emergence, and that's where self-actualized leadership then begins. It's not about perfection. It's not about perfection or a LinkedIn ready story of how I made it. That's not what it's about. It's about showing up from the inside out with self-awareness, with truth, and with reverence to your assignment. With reverence to your assignment. Now, a bold woman, a woman who builds herself, it doesn't mean you're immune to fear, guys. It doesn't mean that you're immune to fear. You're just able to build because you're no longer ruled by fear. So this building fearlessly, I am fearless, that's part of performance. It is not possible that you're not fearful. We fear, but it does not rule us. So I want to give you more than just a testimony today, but I want to give you a pragmatic path to building yourself boldly. Pragmatic path. And this is the part where I want to see notebooks, phones, whatnot come out, because I want you to write down notes. Ruta today. I want to see notebooks. I want to see phones coming out so that you're not distracted, but you're typing. All right. First, I'm going to walk you through 4 pillars, right? 4 pillars of a bold, self-anchored, and self-actualized self. Mama, one. Or are you mesmerized? The first thing, self-leadership. Guys, we've heard this often. It's nothing new. Self-leadership. Govern yourself. Govern yourself, because everything you build, your business, your relationships, your platforms, your peace, everything that you build flows through the vessel of you. And you cannot lead others until you lead yourself.
Yes, thank you.
You cannot lead others until you lead yourself. Leadership is where your excuses end, where you ask yourself, what am I believing that no longer serves me? What am I avoiding that needs to be confronted? And what discipline does my future self require of me? Self-leadership isn't about control. It's not about control. It's about responsibility. Responsibility for your energy, for your habits, for your boundaries. And when I began to lead myself, I became very fluent in my patterns. Very fluent in my patterns. I didn't just notice when something triggered me. I investigated, why am I triggered? I didn't just celebrate wins, but I asked myself, the next level, what does it require of me? Because the woman who builds herself and is able to govern herself is unshakable. Because she does not just react. She doesn't just react, she responds in purpose. So self-leadership, govern yourself first. That's the first pillar. The second pillar, also something we've heard before, self-discovery. Cultivate curiosity. Self-discovery is not a luxury. It is your foundation. You cannot build from a place you have not excavated. Every building that has been built, the ground, the foundation needs to be excavated. So you cannot lead from a self you do not fully understand because you have not excavated thyself. So I had to ask myself those hard questions. Who am I when no one is watching? Who am I when no one is watching? Where did I learn to shrink myself? And which parts of me are actually mine and which parts are survival adaptations? Excavate yourself. Purpose does not arrive on a billboard. It does not arrive on a billboard. It arrives in a whisper. Those quiet moments. Those moments where we are willing to sit with ourselves without distraction, without the noise. And for me, self-discovery meant going back to my roots. Going back to my roots. Who am I? And then reintroducing myself, not to the world, not to you guys, but to myself. And that leads to my third pillar, which is self-sourcing. Self-sourcing, know where you come from. I stopped looking for outward validation the day that I remembered who I am, that I am sourced. I am sourced by an infinite God, that I am the daughter of a lineage that built before me, believed before me, that bled before me. Plant me anywhere and I'm able to create that which I am. Plant me anywhere, I will not survive. Boy, I am going to bloom.
Come on now.
Know thyself. And when you're sourced, when you are sourced, you do not need to perform in any room. You do not need to perform. You own your presence in every room you step into because you are esteemed. And therefore you have a high self-esteem when you are sourced. So self-sourcing. Self-sourcing, do you have that? Third pillar, a woman who knows where she comes from. She cannot be erased. And even in silence, her voice still echoes. So source yourself. The fourth pillar, which is the final pillar, self-actualization. Self-actualization. Pursuing your assignment with ardor. A-R-D-O-U-R for those lang spelling. Pursue your assignment with ardor. Maslow defined it best, and I'm influenced by the school of Maslow when it comes to self-actualization, where he said self-actualization is discovering what you are meant to do and pursuing that with ardor. Now, ardor is not hype, not pursuing it with hype. Ardor is not shallow hustle. Ardor is devotion, being devoted to the assignment, waking up with that commitment, committing to the uncomfortable, showing up with excellence, not for applause, but because excellence is who you are. Your assignment doesn't always have to have clarity in the beginning. It doesn't always need to be clear, but it starts with obedience. And when I decided to then pivot into mentorship full-time, I wasn't necessarily ready for that, but I was obedient to the pull. It starts with obedience. So ask yourself, and with sincere and love, ask yourself, are you living for applause or are you living for alignment? Are you building your life around fear, or are you building it around your assignment? Are you willing to disappoint the world if that means finally being loyal to yourself? Because when we step into our assignments, we do not need to perform. You simply embody it, and you embody it boldly. So today, I want to leave you with this. Be bold. Be anchored. Be the woman behind your own success story. And not because the world is watching, but because your soul is watching. And your soul deserves a masterpiece. My name is Ntsoaki Sibiya, and your strategic guide to intentional mentorship and mastery. Thank you.
Wow. What an angle of the day.